All right, welcome back. We're going to now finish off Chapter 8 by looking at living expenses. So these are your day-to-day expenses that after you've decided whether you're renting or you're going to own, these are the types of things that still come out of your budget. So we're going to look at how to develop a budget, where to put the numbers on a budget sheet. You're going to find your homework on page 154. Numbers 1 through 6 is good. And then I'd also like you to give Chapter 8 review, starting on page 156, a try, questions 1 through 10. So that's the whole section that goes through Chapter 8 in total. So definitely give those two sections a go. You can take pictures with your phone if you have to return your workbook before on Thursday and you haven't gotten a chance to do it yet. Just take a picture of the questions before you hand in your workbook, and then you can still do them at home. Okay, so here we go. Budget. What is a budget? So this is where you organize how much money is coming in, which is called your income, and how much money is going out, which is called your spending. And your goal is to balance it, right? You don't want more money going out than you have coming in, because that means you're going to be in the negative, and that means you're going to go into debt. You don't want that. So you want to make sure that you're only spending the money you have. Now, it's always nice to have your money always to be working, which means you shouldn't have extra money technically just sitting there. It should be put into savings. So as you saw when we were doing our annuities, that you want to be putting money into savings a little bit at a time, because time allows your money to grow exponentially because it's compound interest. So you don't just want all your money just sitting in a bank account doing nothing. You want it to actually be working for you. So when you have a balanced budget, you can see how much money every month you can afford to actually put aside into your savings. So when the money coming in equals the money going out, that includes the money you put aside into your savings and all of that, your investments, then you know that you have what's called a balanced budget. So then you know that the difference equals 0. When the money coming in minus the money going out equals 0, meaning there's no left over, then you know you have balance. So let's look at a couple of different budgets. Part of the worksheets that are on D2L there's a blank budget sheet, and that's very useful. I put that there to help you get organized yourself if you want to. Normally, if we had time in regular school, I would have you go through a budget exercise with me. But let's just practice now with these fake examples here. So Julian is a grade 12 student who works part-time. His weekly earnings for the month of April. So this is what he made each of these weeks. So he got paid week 1, he made this. Week 2, he made that. Week 3, and week 4. And then it was totaled up there. Julian saves $200 each month for college. His car is paid off, so he doesn't have to make car payments, but he does have to pay his car insurance. So that's not optional, right? If you drive, you have to pay for insurance. That's $123 a month. That's super cheap. So obviously, somebody his age, that would be 4 times that price. So he's obviously sharing the car in order for it to be that cheap. He spends approximately $75 a month on gas, so fuel, and $100 on entertainment. So that's going out with his friends, grabbing food, going to the movies, things like that. So this is a much condensed budget, because obviously he doesn't live by himself. His parents pay for the housing. So that's why we're only going to focus on these things in his budget. This is a condensed budget for him for April. So you see on one side we have the income that came in. This is what he made every week, and it's totaled. So he made $707.98 for the month of April. So the left side is the money coming in. The right side is the money going out, which we know as expenses. So we already know that he's decided to put $200 away every month. Now you know, or you've noticed, that this is a monthly budget. Budgets tend to be monthly. It doesn't matter if you're getting paid weekly. You put the total amount that you would make a month in your budget. So college savings, $200 a month. That could be $50 a week, or it could just be one shot, $200 each month. His insurance, as we know, is $123, $75 in gas. So these are all minuses, right? These are all going to be subtracted from the money he makes. Entertainment. So in total, his expenses total $498. So obviously, if he makes $707.98, but he's spending $498, when we subtract those, he gets an extra, so this is positive, $209.98. So the fact that this is extra money, it means he's not really putting it to good use. What should he do with this money? Well, we don't want it to sit there, so maybe he should put more towards college. He could bump this up by $209.98. He could, to make it $409.98. He could do that, and that would make this $707.98. So you see what I'm doing? I'm crossing out the old number that was there, and I'm writing right next to it the new number that would be there. And then that would make this zero difference. This number minus this number would mean that he has zero left over because all his money went towards something, and that includes savings. So by bumping up his savings, then his money is being put to good use. He could put more money into entertainment. Maybe $100 for the whole month isn't that much, especially for a grade 12 student. Maybe he wants to go out more and do more things. So we could have split this 209, maybe $109.98 here and an extra $100 here. We would still get the same total in the end, but his allocation of that money can be split up however you think makes the most sense for somebody in his situation. So this is what we do with budgets. Okay, so remember, this was for the month of April. Now, maybe in May, he's not going to work as much, and this number is going to come down, which means then these numbers have to be adjusted so that he doesn't go into debt. So it's important that you always revisit your budget and make sure that you're always balancing it. All right, so this is what's going to happen here. They're going to have a budget, and then things are going to change. So then we're going to have to go back and actually change the budget. So Mark and Jenny have 3 kids, and they have a 4-bedroom house. So a very different situation. This year, their car insurance went up by 5%. Typical. Groceries, food went up by 10%. That's very typical. And their heating bill also increased by 15%. So we're going to show you last year's budget. So sorry, their monthly budget for before these increases. And then we're going to recalculate and change their budget and try to rebalance it. So this is very, very typical. So keep in mind, we have car insurance 5%, groceries 10%, heating 15%. Okay, so let's look at this typical budget. So this is the one that's filled in for these people, but I gave you a blank one. And this is the way it's going to be set out. So again, up here for the month, you can see what they make, what they bring in. So this is the money that comes in. So Mark, $3,200 a month. So this is after taxes, right? This is net income. So I want to make sure you understand that this is net. This is actually what they take home on into their account. Jenny, $2,900. So in total, as a couple, $6,100. We have 2 columns here. We have fixed expenses and we have variable expenses. On the fixed side, these are things that don't change. These are things that stay the same every month that you know come out at the same amount and you don't really have too much say. The variable side is a side that you actually can play around with. Like some of these things you don't need to have. So you can make them 0 if you want. You can increase them if you want. You can do what you want. So fixed means it's going to be the same amount every month. Usually you have very little control. So let's look at the things that they have to pay. So the numbers that you already see filled in, let's look at the first numbers that were filled in. These are the numbers that show what their original costs were. So these people have a house. So they have a mortgage and they have to pay property taxes. So those 2 things together, sometimes they're separate, but they pay them together every month, is $2,040. That's very typical. They don't have, since they own the house outright or they have a freestanding house, they don't pay condo fees. So that's 0. And when it's 0, you don't have to put a 0, you just leave it blank. Because they have a house, as you know, you have to have home insurance. That home insurance every month is $32. Again, that's the same price every single month. They don't have a car payment, so that's good. So they own their car, or maybe they don't have a car. No, they do have a car because I think fuel went up. So they do have a car, but they don't have to pay for it because they own it already. So their car insurance originally was $188. So look at the original number, $188. RSPs. So what RSPs are? This is Registered Retired Savings Plan. So this is to put your money away for after you retire so that there's money sitting there to pay you back every month in a check so that you can make it through your retirement on a higher fixed income. They recommend that you put 10% of your total earnings, so 10% of what you bring home, so in this case $610, is the best way to save for retirement. And you also get a tax break when you put money into your RSPs. So it is a good thing to do when you're in your earning phase of your life to put money into an RSP. Notice it's blank for them. So they don't have any RSPs. So I don't know what these people are doing for retirement. Maybe they have work pensions and they're going to, base it on that. Life insurance. So because they have kids and all of that, it's important for them to have life insurance. That is way too much money for life insurance. You should not be paying $500 a month. Even though there's two of them, still that's a lot of money. Long-term savings was $580. So they're putting money away in long-term savings. That savings could be for a trip. It could be for the house in the future to do renovations, maybe to buy a bigger house. Who knows what they're saving up for? And then, of course, we have RESP. So instead of RRSP, Registered Retired, this is Registered Education Savings Plan. So when you have kids, you might want to save from the time they're young until they turn 18 and put money aside into an account that will be there for them when they want to go to college or university. And that's what this is for. So again, they have a couple of kids. So in total, they put $400 aside into the education plan. So the kids will have something there when they do want to go to post-secondary. So what happens is we know that we have a total of $6,100 coming in. The fixed expenses, the original, this number plus this number plus this plus this plus this plus this, was $3,675. Okay, so again, we're just looking at the original numbers. Then you look on the variable side. So let's see where their money was going. And this is fun for you to do for yourself to see where your money is going. Because again, not all of these things apply to you, so you just leave them blank. These people filled it in, so they obviously have a lot of stuff going on. Groceries. Now, obviously, there's how many kids in this house? 3 kids. So there's 5 people that have to be fed. So 5 people for groceries, $800 a month. That's not a lot. I mean, that's very economical if they're only paying $800 a month in groceries to feed 5 people. But maybe their kids are very young. So, but as the kids get older, this number is going to go higher, most likely. Electricity. So this is based on consumption, right? This is utility. So $120 a month, that's a lot. So they might have like 2 fridges going or a freezer in the garage, or they leave the lights on. Who knows? It doesn't look very economical. $120 a month is expensive. Heating, $220 a month. Again, maybe at the peak of winter, but if your house is inefficient and you're losing a lot of heat through the windows or it's drafty, $220, that's high. I can tell you that electricity is about $50 to $70 a month. Heating at the peak of winter is about $70 to $90 a month. In the summer, you're paying $30 to $40. Water is about $30 a month. So not very much, $65 for them because maybe it's 5 people. So unless you're watering the garden a lot, this number usually doesn't go that high, but that's still reasonable. Telephone. So this is your regular phone, not your cell phone. So this is the regular landline that's in the house. They pay $35 to have one of those. Internet is only $35. That's really good. Cable, $30. So they maybe have a deal going between the two of them. Get both of them for $65 or something. Gas, so this is the gasoline for their car, 170 a month. So that's driving to and from work, driving the kids around. 170 for the month. Yeah, seems about reasonable, especially if you have a big car. Entertainment, so that's going to the movies, that's doing anything for fun, going to the zoo and paying your admission fee. $200 for everybody for the full month. Clothing budget, 150 bucks. So when you have 3 kids, especially if they're growing quickly, $150 for a month, you can get by on that. Vacation, so they're saving up for a vacation, so that's not long-term savings. Maybe they have a big vacation saved up here. This is for something a little more near in the future. So $200 for them to do something maybe over the summer. Gifts, so this is birthday gifts and things like that, Christmas gifts, gifts when the kids go to other people's birthdays, $100 a month. They believe in giving to charity, so they put aside 50 bucks a month. They actually have home repair, $200 a month. So again, you could have considered long-term savings as part of going towards home repair if it's not going towards something else. They decided to make it something different. And a kids account. So this might be things for the kids like to play soccer or to do gymnastics or to take a music class to learn an instrument. That 150 again for 3 kids is only 50 bucks a kid each month. That could be their fees for their extracurriculars. So when you total up how much this originally was, 2425. So we have 3675, 2425, 3675 plus 2425. We're at $6,100 when you add these two up. See it there? And of course, 6,100 came in, so 6,100 minus 6,100, they were balanced originally. So you see a 0 here for next to balance. Now, 6,100 minus 6,100 was before the increases. So now we have to go back and do the changes they said. So again, I'm just going to write it down again. Car insurance went up by 5%. So car insurance went up 5%. We have groceries 10%, heating 15%. Groceries 10% and heating 15%. So we now are going to go back to their budget that was all nicely balanced, and we're going to make these changes by gently crossing out the number that used to be there and putting in the new number. So remember that when you're adding on something that's as a percent, we want it times the original number by, in this case, 1.05. And the reason why we put the 1 there is because it's going to add 5% on to the number that was originally there. So when we do groceries, we're going to take the original grocery amount and we're going to times it by 1.1. And for heating, we're going to take the original heating amount and we're going to times it by 1.15. And that's going to give us our new numbers to put into our table. So car insurance. The original amount was 188. So 188 times 1.05 gives you 197.40. So cross out the 188 and that's where the 197.40 came in. Then you go to groceries. $800 goes up by 10%, so we're adding basically 80 bucks, and that brings you to 880. So cross out the 800, it's now 880. And do the same thing for the heating bill, was 220. Wow, that's expensive. Times 1.15, and you get 253. So cross out the 220. So what happens now is we now have to make this budget work. So those were the changes that are out of our control. We still want to make sure that this goes down to 0. But these numbers can't go up without other numbers going down, right? So the money has to come from somewhere. Unless they're going to make more money up here, which it doesn't look like, we have to make sure that we take away from the areas that can be taken away. So in order to make this come back down, because you see how 188 jumped up to 197.40, we have a new total here, and we're definitely going to have a new total on this side. We're not going to balance to 0. So we now have to steal from other sections that we think we can still live with. And by stealing from those other sections, we still need to bring this down to 0. So our goal is to make these two columns add up to 6,100 so that we can minus it from this 6,100. So the thinking behind this one for this particular family was that the long-term savings, which is always a good idea because you can't change your mortgage. It is what it is. You can't change the property taxes. You can't change the home insurance pretty much. Car insurance went up. We can't touch that. Life insurance is the same amount every month. That's a lot though. Long-term savings. So we took a little bit from the long-term savings because that's something they have control over. 580, dropped it down to 515. So that definitely saves them some money in this section. That's 65 bucks. So total up your new numbers and you get a new total. Now on this side, obviously groceries are always increasing, so they could not buy as much, but $880 a month for 5 people is reasonable. So remember, you're packing lunches, you're trying to cook at home as much as you can to save money, you're going to maybe cheaper grocery stores. So all of those things, you try and keep this number as low as you can. 880, I don't think you can steal from that. Electricity, for some reason, is still very expensive for them. Heating is what went up, so that's your gas bill. Water, that's reasonable. Now, they could take away their home line. A lot of people don't have home telephone anymore. They use their cell phone. So we might, there is no cell phone listed here. So I would actually cross out telephone and I would put cell. Now, $35 a month is reasonable. It's very cheap for a cell plan. So maybe they bought the phone outright and are just paying minimal data, maybe only 2 gigs a month, that kind of thing, to keep this down as much as they can. Internet, you pretty much have to have in the house. Cable, when you have kids, you probably want to have TV. Now, if it was just the couple themselves, they might say, forget the cable and just, use Netflix for $13 a month, something like that. Gas, of course, you have to drive to work, you have to get around, so you don't have too much say there. The entertainment, though, so they decided to do less things outside and maybe do more things in the house, go over to people's homes more frequently instead of going out. So $200, they cut that in half, and now it's $100. That's tough for a whole month. But maybe you only do 1 or 2 things then the entire month instead of something every week. The clothing stayed the same because, again, these people have kids. So they have to obviously keep up with what the kids need. Now, the vacation fund used to be $200. We needed to take from certain areas again because we're trying to accommodate for the amounts that went up. So the vacation went down by almost $100. And the gifts also went down by 25 bucks. So maybe you don't go to as many birthday parties, or maybe you only get 1 Christmas gift from the family, 1 birthday gift from the family for the year, just to make sure that we can make up the difference. They still kept the charity the same, so that's obviously very important to them. Home repairs, maybe they live in an older house, so they know that something's coming that they have to prepare for. So that's something to keep into account. And of course, what the kids do, whether it's soccer or, like I said, maybe it's tutoring on the side, something like that. They have the money sitting there. So when you add up the new and the old now all together, we get a new total. And when you add this to this, we now balance back out to 6,100, which brings us back to 0. So this is what we do when we try to balance a monthly budget. We go back and forth and we take from where we can take, and we try to make do with what we have coming in. Now, obviously, you just got to make more money if you want to spend more money. That's really what has to happen. Now, certain things here seem funny to me. Electricity shouldn't be this high, for sure. Like I said, your hydro bill, picture about 50 bucks a month. That's a good amount. Heating, the same thing. Now, obviously, this goes up winter versus summer. So winter might be a $70 or $80 or $100. So it depends on the season for heating. Water is about 30 to 40, I'd say, per month. So those are typical utility fees per month. But I guess the more people you have in the house, they might go a little bit higher. Internet, though, could be like $70 a month. We know cell phones can be anywhere from $30 to $100 a month. Cable internet can be, again, anywhere from $50 to $100 a month, depending on what package you have. Gas, that depends on how far you drive. Entertainment and clothing are totally based on the person. Vacation, some people don't take any vacations. Like, they're not flying anywhere. Maybe they're just only going to go where they can drive. Gifts, it's always important to set aside money for gifts and a charity if that's important to you, because then when it comes time for those things, you want to make sure you have the money. Have long-term savings. That is very important. That is separate from, say, the kids' education. But the major thing that I'm noticing for them is that they don't have any retirement savings plan. So that would be something that I would expect them to do, because this $500 life insurance, that seems really, really high. Life insurance for a young couple shouldn't be that high. But yeah, I would split this up if I could, cancel the life insurance policy, have something else that's cheaper, and then put the rest into the RRSP. But that's the way I would play around with this. So there's a blank template, looks just like this, that I put up on D2L there for you to play with, so you can see where your money's going. If you ever want to do this for yourself, the money coming in versus the money going out, the ones you have control over and the ones that you don't. So fixed versus variable. Right? And you can see whether you're balancing or not. All right, so give these questions a try. 154, again, numbers 1 through 6, and the Chapter 8 review, just to summarize everything we've done in Chapter 8.